Act 1. The Body on the Beach. In the aftermath of the Second World War, the world was a place of secrets. It was an era of shifting shadows, of Cold War paranoia, and of spies who moved silently across borders. It is against this backdrop of global unease that one of the most baffling and enduring mysteries of the 20th century would unfold, not in the shadowy streets of Berlin or Moscow, but on a peaceful, sun-drenched beach in Adelaide, Australia. It is the story of an unknown man, a secret code, a line of Persian poetry, and a mystery that has remained utterly impenetrable for over 70 years. This is the Tamám Shúd case, the mystery of the Somerton man. Our story begins on the morning of December 1st, 1948. At Somerton Beach, a quiet and respectable seaside suburb, a group of locals discovered the body of a man. He was lying in the sand, propped up against a sea wall, as if he were simply resting, looking out at the ocean. He was dressed impeccably in a suit and tie, his shoes polished, his appearance neat and tidy. There were no signs of a struggle, no outward signs of violence. At first glance, it might have appeared that the man had simply died of natural causes while enjoying the evening air. But as police began their investigation, they quickly realized this was no ordinary death. The first strange clue was the man's complete lack of identification. His pockets contained a few ordinary items: a train ticket to a nearby suburb, a bus ticket, a comb, a packet of chewing gum, and some cigarettes. But there was no wallet, no money, and no identification of any kind. This was highly unusual. Even more bizarre was the fact that all the labels had been carefully cut from his clothing. Someone, either the man himself or his killer, had gone to great lengths to erase his identity. The man's physical condition was also puzzling. He was in peak physical shape, with the well-defined calf muscles of a trained athlete or perhaps a ballet dancer. The coroner's examination only deepened the mystery. The autopsy could find no clear cause of death. There was no poison in his system that could be detected by the toxicology tests of the era. He had not drowned. He had not suffered a heart attack. The coroner noted a number of strange internal conditions, including acute congestion, but was forced to conclude that he could not say for certain what had killed the man. He speculated that it was likely a fast-acting, untraceable poison, suggesting a professional, almost surgical, form of murder. The police were faced with a perfect enigma: a man with no name, no identity, and no discernible cause of death. They took his fingerprints and sent them to police agencies around the world, but there was no match. No one, anywhere, seemed to know who this man was. He was a ghost. But the case was about to take a turn, a discovery that would elevate this strange death into a legendary mystery. A month after the body was found, a re-examination of the man's clothing revealed a tiny, hidden fob pocket in his trousers. Tucked inside was a small, tightly rolled scrap of paper, torn from a book. On it were two printed words that would give the case its enduring, poetic name: Tamám Shúd. Act 2. The Rabayat and the Suitcase. The discovery of the Tamám Shúd scrap of paper was the first major breakthrough in the case. The phrase, which is Persian for "it is ended" or "it is finished," was identified by experts as the final words from a book of poems called the Rabayat of Omar Khayyam. This was a specific, tangible clue. The police launched a nationwide appeal, asking the public to search for the exact copy of the book from which this scrap had been torn. The appeal was a long shot, but it worked. A local man came forward. He told police that on the night before the body was found, He had found a rare, specific edition of the Rabayat in the back of his unlocked car, which he had parked near Somerton Beach. He hadn't thought much of it at the time, and had simply tossed it into his glove compartment. After seeing the police appeal in the newspaper, he retrieved the book and turned it over to the authorities. When forensic experts examined it, they found that the last page, which contained the words Tamám Shúd, had been torn out. The scrap of paper from the dead man's pocket was a perfect match. They had found the book. The back cover of the book provided what investigators hoped would be the final, case-breaking clue. Written in faint pencil were 5 lines of capitalized letters, with 1 line crossed out. It was a code. The sequence of letters appeared random, and was unlike any known cipher. Was this a secret message? The code was released to the public, and sent to top naval intelligence and FBI cryptographers. But despite decades of analysis by the world's best codebreakers, the Somerton man's code has never been definitively solved. It remains a tantalizing and impenetrable piece of the puzzle. The book contained one more clue, a telephone number. It was the unlisted number of a young nurse who lived in a suburb, just a short walk from where the body was found. The nurse, whose name was Jessica Jo Thompson, told police that she had no idea who the dead man was or why he would have her phone number. She did, however, admit that she had once owned a copy of the Rabayat, which she had given to a man named Alfred Boxall during the Second World War. For a brief, exciting moment, the police thought they had their man. Was the Somerton man Alfred Boxall? They quickly tracked Boxall down. He was alive and well, and most importantly, he still had the copy of the Rabayat that Jessica Thompson had given him, complete with the final Tamám Shúd page intact. He was not the Somerton man. The mystery had taken another strange and frustrating turn. The dead man was not Boxall, but he was somehow connected to the same woman through the same rare book. Who was this man, and what was his connection to the nurse? When shown a plaster cast of the dead man's face, Jessica Thompson reportedly reacted with a look of near-fainting shock, but she continued to deny ever knowing him. Many investigators have long believed that she knew more than she was willing to say, and that she may have taken the secret of the Somerton man's identity to her grave. The investigation uncovered one final piece of the puzzle. At the Adelaide railway station, a brown suitcase was found that was believed to belong to the Somerton man. He had checked it into the station's cloakroom the day before his death. Inside, they found a collection of clothing, and just as with the clothes he was wearing, all the name tags had been carefully removed, except for one. The name T. Keane was found on a tie, but police could find no record of any missing person by that name. It was another dead end. The suitcase did, however, contain some tools, a stenciling brush, a sharpened table knife, which some have suggested were the tools of a spy or a sailor. The contents of the suitcase, like everything else in this case, only served to create more questions than answers. Act 3. The Spy and the Nurse. With the discovery of the suitcase, the coded message, and the multiple erased identities, the investigation into the Somerton man took on a distinctly Cold War flavor. This was post-war Australia, a place that was becoming a key intelligence partner for the United States and Britain. Just a few hundred miles from Adelaide was the Woomera Prohibited Area, a top-secret Anglo-Australian rocket testing range. The idea that a foreign agent might be operating in the area was not a far-fetched fantasy. It was a very real national security concern. The spy theory became the most dominant and enduring explanation for the case. This theory posits that the Somerton man was an intelligence agent, likely from a communist country in the Eastern Bloc, who was in Australia on a secret mission. His death was a professional execution, a silencing. This would explain almost all of the bizarre clues. The untraceable poison is a classic hallmark of intelligence agencies. The removal of all clothing tags and identification is standard procedure for a spy to prevent their identity from being discovered if they are captured or killed. The coded message could have been his last, desperate communication. His athletic build could have been the result of military or espionage training. His connection to Jessica Thompson, the nurse, was also re-examined through this lens. Was she his contact? Was she a fellow agent? Or was she a honeypot? A woman used by an opposing agency to lure him into a trap? Her refusal to identify him, and her apparent shock when seeing the plaster cast of his face, could be interpreted as the fear of a woman caught in a dangerous game of international espionage, afraid of what might happen to her if she told the truth. But another, more personal and tragic theory also emerged, centered around the mysterious nurse. This is the spurned lover theory. This theory suggests that the Somerton man was not a spy, but a man who had come to Adelaide to see Jessica Thompson, with whom he had had a past relationship. He may have even been the father of her son. According to this narrative, she rejected him, and in a state of heartbreak and despair, he took his own life on the beach near her home, using a fast-acting poison. This theory also explains many of the clues. It would explain why he had her phone number, his choice of the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam, a book of romantic and often melancholic poetry, could have been a final, poetic gesture. The final words, Tamám Shúd, meaning it is ended, would be a fitting epitaph for a man whose love and life had come to a tragic end. Jessica Thompson's refusal to identify him could have been an attempt to protect her own reputation and that of her family from a public scandal. It's a theory that replaces the cold calculus of espionage with the raw, powerful emotions of love and loss. The two dominant theories, a murdered spy or a spurned lover, have divided investigators and amateur sleuths for decades. Act 4. The Ghost in the DNA. For more than 70 years, the Somerton man lay in a grave in Adelaide's West Terrace Cemetery, his identity a complete blank, his story a national enigma. The case was cold, the physical evidence seemingly exhausted. But in the 21st century, a new and powerful tool emerged that offered a final, tantalizing hope for an answer: DNA analysis. The charge was led by a professor from the University of Adelaide named Derek Abbott. Abbott, a brilliant researcher in the fields of physics and biomedical engineering, became fascinated and then obsessed with the Somerton man case. He saw it not just as a historical curiosity, but as a complex scientific and cryptographic puzzle waiting to be solved. He and his students have dedicated years to re-examining every facet of the case, from the unbreakable code to the mysterious Jessica Thompson. Abbott's most significant contribution was his push for the exhumation of the Somerton man's body to attempt a DNA extraction. It was a long and difficult process, requiring permission from the authorities. But in May of 2021, after years of campaigning, his request was finally granted. The body of the Somerton man was exhumed from his grave. It was a historic moment, a chance to finally ask the ghost of Somerton Beach who he really was. The goal of the exhumation was to find preserved hairs from the plaster cast of the man's head and torso, which was made in 1949. From these hairs, scientists hoped to extract a viable DNA profile. This DNA could then be used in the same way as in the Golden State Killer case. It could be run through public genealogy databases to search for any living relatives, however distant. From there, a family tree could be constructed, and his identity could, theoretically, be pinpointed. In July of 2022, Professor Abbott, working alongside the renowned American forensic genealogist Colleen Fitzpatrick, announced a stunning breakthrough. They claim to have successfully used the hairs to sequence the Somerton man's DNA, and had used it to build a family tree. After years of painstaking genealogical research, they had arrived at a name. They announced that they were confident that the Somerton man was a man named Carl Charles Webb, an electrical engineer and instrument maker from Melbourne. According to their research, Webb was born in 1905. He was a quiet, separated man who had a passion for writing poetry. The pieces of the puzzle seemed to fit. His profession as an instrument maker could explain the strange tools found in his suitcase. His love of poetry would explain his connection to the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam. The researchers even found a connection between Webb's brother-in-law and the mysterious nurse, Jessica Thompson. The 70-year-old mystery, it seemed, was finally solved. But the case of the Somerton man is never that simple. The South Australia police, who are conducting their own parallel DNA investigation, have not yet officially confirmed Abbott's findings. The final, official verdict on the Somerton man's identity is still pending. Act 5. The name in the genes. The identification of the Somerton man as Carl Charles Webb in 2022 was a monumental achievement, a testament to the power of modern science and the relentless dedication of researchers like Derek Abbott and Colleen Fitzpatrick. But in the strange and labyrinthine world of the Tamám Shúd case, every answer seems to only generate a new set of questions. If the Somerton man was indeed Carl Webb, a quiet electrical engineer from Melbourne, it seems to rule out the more sensational spy theories. But it doesn't explain everything. Why did he travel to Adelaide? Why did he have the unlisted phone number of a local nurse? Why was he carrying a book of poetry with a secret code in the back? And most importantly, how and why did he die? The Carl Webb identification opens up a new avenue of investigation, one that is more personal and perhaps more tragic. Webb's life was marked by a certain sadness. He was reportedly separated from his wife. His love of poetry, particularly the melancholic verses of the Rubaiyat, could suggest a man of a romantic and perhaps depressive disposition. It's possible that the spurned lover theory is closer to the truth. Perhaps his trip to Adelaide was a final, desperate attempt to reconnect with a woman from his past, Jessica Thompson. Her rejection may have pushed him over the edge, leading him to take his own life on the beach, a final, poetic act of a broken heart. But even this theory has holes. If it was a suicide, what was the untraceable poison he used? And why go to such extraordinary lengths to erase his identity, cutting the tags from his clothes? These are not the typical actions of a suicide victim. And so, the mystery endures. The DNA has given us a name, but it has not given us a story. It has put a face to the ghost, but it has not explained why he haunts us. The Somerton man, Carl Charles Webb, remains an enigma. His death, whether a suicide, an accident, or a murder, is a secret he took with him to his unmarked grave. The code he left behind remains unsolved, a final, silent challenge to the world. He is a testament to a simple, unsettling truth. Sometimes, knowing a man's name is not the same as knowing his story. His tale is, and perhaps always will be, Tamám Shúd. It is finished,